All right. In the rich tradition of the Killer Nun, Anacardia, the Other Hell, Demonia, we got a new nunsploitation movie from Madam Web star Sydney Sweeney, of all people. So I went tonight. I had only seen a trailer for this movie. I didn't know much about it. It looked like another, The Haunting of Emily Rose or whatever type of movie. The trailer really just showed off like a nun jumping out a window and stuff like that. So I didn't really know what to expect from this one. I had read some really good reviews on it. So I was like, fuck it. There's nothing else going on tonight. I promised another friend of mine I would wait and see Ghostbusters a second time with them. So I went and saw Immaculate. And I was not disappointed. I think I like this movie a lot more than the other people in the theater with me. They seem to be mortified by it, but I really enjoyed the fucking balls on this thing. Sydney Sweeney is a girl who comes from Detroit. She's invited to join this convent and take her vows. There's a charming Italian priest, who brings her out there and gives her opportunity. She believes that God has a plan for her because when she was 7 years old, she fell into this ice on this lake and she had to have her heart restarted after 7 minutes. You get this kind of fish out of water story first off. And it doesn't take long for the weird imagery to start. Like, I assume that this was going to be more in line with a lot of jump scares. So something like The Nun, from like the James Wan Conjuring verse movies. But what this winds up playing more like is like a Ken Russell movie. There's far more like The Devils, which is another like religious exploitation movie. Far more of like a Joe D'Amato feel to this one. You've got faces bashed in, you've got tongues cut out in a scene that would have been right at home in Witchfinder General. You've got eyeballs stabbed, you've got fingernails pulled off, legs broken. It's very visceral. And it's vague enough that when it eventually does jump into the story of, genetic modifications and all that kind of stuff. I mean, which is, once the priest kind of gives his like vague assertion of why he became a priest, I went, oh, okay, well, that has something to do with this. Sydney Sweeney finds herself pregnant, but she's a virgin, and all of a sudden she's treated like, like the Virgin Mary. And it makes some of the other nuns very jealous and unhappy. There's a mystery there when one of them tries to kill her and says it should have been me. It's very interesting. But it's all set at this old this old convent in Italy, and it's got a very Suspiria like vibe to it at points as well. Where you could see Susie Bannion from Suspiria's story and Sister Cecilia, who's Sydney Sweeney's character, kind of running parallel for a while. Every time I hear Cecilia, I think of the Simon and Garfunkel song. But no, I genuinely like how vague certain elements are left as we kind of fall into this nightmare where she doesn't know what's happening to her, and they're treating her differently, and they won't let her go to a hospital. There's a whole scene where they think that she miscarried until the end. They get her, they have to get her to a hospital because she's carrying the could be the second coming of Christ. It could be the Antichrist. And it turns out that she cut a chicken's head off, and she used that to smear the blood all over. And then, like, when the nun finds the chicken head, they call the priest, and she fucking darts across this field barefoot, covered in blood. And when it's stark, it's very stark, and it feels almost like the French, like the late '90s, early 2000s. There was that era of like French extremist stuff, like Martyrs and Haute Tension and whatnot. So at times it feels very much like that, but at times also it feels very opulent and very Euro. And being set in Rome, that in Italy, that makes sense. But there's this interesting contrast between all of it, and it's literally just Sydney Sweeney just being abused for 2 hours, and it's horrible. She's branded and beaten and humiliated, and when we eventually get to the third act, where she's just, she needs to get out of there, and it just gets violent and horrifying, but also darkly comedic. And that was sort of what reminded me most of the the nunsploitation movies of the 1970s. Was the sanctity needed to be flipped on its head and made dirty, and Italy being a Catholic dominated country, there was that element of fuck you to to the church and all that, and they created all these movies, and most of these movies were about sexuality. It was indulging in the pleasures of the flesh from these nuns, a lot of lesbianism and whatnot in these movies. This one doesn't really go that route, but it does engage in that same spirit of those types of movies of just this, this fuck you to the practices and to the blind following of this stuff, and in that, obviously, I'm an atheist, but I've read the Bible cover to cover in the past and know what I'm arguing about, and so I found a lot of this extremely interesting, and it's not gonna set the fucking world on fire or anything like that. It's not gonna be like a modern classic, but Neon put this out. It's 1,000 times better than any of the shit that's been coming out of Blumhouse, the fucking haunted pool movie or the haunted teddy bear movie or anything like that. Like, this is actually like this one has balls, man. And it's found out that Sydney Sweeney apparently auditioned for this movie like back in 2014, and it fell into development hell. So when she got a little clout, she bought the rights to it, and then they put it out, and she was a producer on it, and I think that's awesome. It seems that she's down with the horror, so I'd love to see more shit. And you get to that third act where she's on the run after her water breaks through the catacombs, which obviously introduced the Joe D'Amato angle in my head. It reminded me of Anthropophagus, and even that one included a baby as well. And after she sets somebody on fire, and they're trying to perform a C-section on her while she's struggling to get away. But there's the birthing scene is just it's on her face, and she's known for being like, because I only knew her from Madame Web. I knew that she was the curvaceous actress on Euphoria, I think the show was called, or White Lotus or something like that. And then she was in Madame Web. And I didn't really think anything more than just like, oh, okay, she's just another pretty young actress that everyone's obsessed with now because she has big tits. It's never a fucking dull moment around here, guys. So I was filming, and next thing you know, my car alarm is going off. So I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Apparently a huge fist fight broke out in the bar next door, and they had come out and slammed into my car. So I'm trying to turn my alarm off, and then the police show up, and then I got to talk to the police, and they're like, well, come over here. And I'm like, dude, I can barely walk right now. So yeah, so once all that died down, I came back inside, and let's get back to talking about Sydney Sweeney and Immaculate. I don't even fucking know where I left off. I'll have to trim out all that stuff. So yeah, so the birthing scene. People were talking about the birthing scene. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna talk about her puking up her teeth and all that kind of stuff as well in it. Um, but yeah, you basically just have the ending is kind of what sealed the movie for me. I liked it already. I like that combination of art house film with grindhouse film. And again, like the nunsploitation angle and the Jess Franco-ness of it all and all that. But it was the three or four other people in the theater with me um, were clearly mortified and confused and turned off by this thing. And the ending of the movie is just a shot of her face as she gives birth. And again, saying that she's got balls, man. She's got snot coming out of her nose, and she's drooling all over the place, and it's just sheer pain and a performance. But it was what she does after that that made the other people in the theater really uncomfortable because I laughed because I was like, well, they're not going to go there. And then they went there. And you could just tell that I enjoyed the movie way, way more than those people did. And it was like when Metz and I went to go see Barbarian. We were having a way better time than the other people in the theater with us. So for that, I would say if you are a nunsploitation fan, if you are a Sydney Sweeney fan, if you have Catholic guilt, go give this one a try. And yeah, that's it. I had more to say, but now I'm all fucking frazzled, and I gotta work tomorrow, so I wanted to get this posted. So yeah, that's it. Never a dull moment. God have mercy on Nude.